2021 has really been another year for the history books. It's been a year for certainly a large percentage of the population here in Australia of challenges, but also a year of a lot of success. Australia-wide, the property market has really exploded, and for people already in the property market, it obviously has been a very favourable year on that side of things. The stock market continues to do well, and if you're in the crypto space, it's certainly performing as well. But with that said, the year is quickly coming to an end, and for that reason I want to share 6 lessons that I feel I've learnt this year, and hopefully they provide you a little bit of an insight and a few little ideas and things worth considering. To jump into it, my first lesson's something that actually occurred to me the other day when I was having a conversation with a friend of mine up here in Cairns, and he was saying how he got lucky buying his property 5 or 6 years ago, and I sort of pulled him up and went, I don't think you really did get lucky. I think luck is a product of having a go. So that's my first lesson, that in order to get lucky, you actually need to put yourself out there. And for this example, he put himself out there by buying a property about 5 or 6 years ago, and that property has performed extremely well. Now, I don't think he really got lucky. I think the market tends to repeat itself over and over. And by him buying into the property market, he was able to receive the luck of that market continuing to grow. So I think, a big thing is it's easy to look at people and go, oh, they got lucky doing that. They got lucky buying Bitcoin in 2008. They got lucky buying stocks at the bottom of the GFC. But the reality is, in order to actually get lucky, you need to put yourself out there and have a go. So I think that's a big lesson from this year. If you want to put yourself in a position to have a favourable outcome, you actually need to take the steps and take the leap in that direction. And sometimes it is a complete blind faith leap. But without taking that leap and without taking that first step, you're never going to see the benefits of luck. If my friend didn't buy that property 5 or 6 years ago, he never would have got lucky with the market rising. So take the step, take the action, and the more steps, the more action you do take, I think the more luck you're going to see coming your way. My second big lesson this year was to plan for the worst. Now, if you go into a business, into an investment, into a project, and plan for the worst and plan for what that looks like, I think you're always going to be prepared, and I think you're always going to be surprised, or to my previous point, lucky. Good example of this, we really started buying up properties and investing into the property market about 5 years ago, and our outlook, at that time there hadn't been much capital growth in Cairns, but our outlook was that the rental market was very stable up here. It really wasn't looking like there was going to be any drops in the foreseeable future in the rental market. And we basically looked at these properties and went, if we bought them, rented them out, worst case scenario, we're going to have an asset paid off in around a 20-year time period. So that was us really planning for the worst, looking at the worst case scenario, no capital growth, the rental market not actually going up anymore but just plateauing. What did that look like for us? Now, obviously with that scenario, looking at the worst of it, we obviously got lucky, or the market did what the market does, and now we're seeing the benefits of capital growth thrown in amongst that mix. So I think before you do take that leap and take that chance, or take that next step, it's important to look at the downside. What's the worst case scenario here? What does that look like? And if that does happen, what will play out? And I think that's a really important lesson and a really important thing to consider, especially on the back of the Rona and everything that has happened. Looking at that as that worst case scenario and what that would actually shape up to and look like for you and that investment or that project. The third big lesson I've learnt this year is history has a habit of repeating itself. Doesn't matter what you're looking at, be it the stock market crashing and then booming and then crashing and then booming, or the property market running those similar market cycles. History really does have a habit of repeating itself. On this sort of tone, a lot of people in the Cairns property market told me that there's no capital growth to be had in Cairns. And while this was true for the previous decade leading up to sort of the end of 2020, in that period, sort of 2004 to 2008, prices did double in our market up here in Cairns. And so looking at that history and looking at that history lesson of the market doubling back then, it was foreseeable that what we're seeing now in the market was likely to happen again. So, have a look. History does repeat itself, and that's your boom and your crash cycles. It is likely, if it's happened before, it's going to happen again. And really use that to your strength and position yourself to take advantage of history repeating itself time and time again. My fourth tip is to take it step at a time. There's a saying that how do you eat an elephant? You eat it bite by bite. And that's the same with sort of property investing, stock market investing, doing something outside of your comfort zone. If you can break it up into little steps, it makes the whole thing less daunting and more achievable. I think for, there's obviously a bit of a property investing channel here. I think if you are looking at getting into property investing, sometimes it might be best to buy that lower price point property, get into the market. What does it feel like to have a tenant paying rent each week? What does it feel like to owe the bank $100,000 for a home that you don't live in? And really take that first step, as it will give you confidence to then take the second, third, fourth step, and hopefully bigger and bigger steps each time. So really consider it, look at what you're wanting to achieve, see if you can break it down to a step-by-step basis, and what does that first step look like. I think it's a really important thing to consider, and a really important lesson. My fifth big lesson this year is find your circle. Doesn't matter what you're doing in life, if you can find a circle of friends or peers or colleagues with a similar viewpoint, it will certainly help speed up your progress, as you'll be able to bounce ideas off each other and encourage each other to take that step forward. And with the world we live in now, it's easier than ever to find that circle online, find that Facebook group chat, find that Facebook page, or find that website that of like-minded people, and see if you can network and form some sort of communication channel with those people. And the more you can bounce those ideas off similar-minded people, the more likely you are to sort of achieve those goals. So really focus on finding your circle, find those like-minded people, and like I say, don't be afraid to look online. Is there someone overseas that's looking at accomplishing the same thing as you are? Can you utilize their research and their sort of time that they have spent to balance it up against your own, and see if you can carve your path forward? My last and final point, on very similar sort of to my previous point, is consider the source. Everyone wants to put their 2 cents in. If you're speaking with your parents, you're speaking with your cousin, you're speaking to that random person at the barbecue, everyone has their own opinion and their own life experience. So when we are listening to people give advice, consider the source. What did their circumstances look like when A, B, and C happened? Did they get burnt by a tenant that was not vented properly, that did end up trashing the property? Just consider what evidence and what experience they have had before you take on that advice. And I think this is really important. It's very easy to speak to that one person that tried to start a business and failed miserably, and really take into consideration their point of view, but that point of view be completely obscure and skewed to that set of circumstances. So if you are looking at getting advice from different people, what has their experience been? What is the source of that information? And if you can really look at it and try and look at it in their lens, I think you're going to be able to take away a lot more gold nuggets from their point and their opinion, without actually just basing that opinion as gospel and true. So really consider the source when you are talking to people. So there you have it. That's my 6 lessons that I've learned so far in 2021. I hope they do give you some insight and something to think about moving into the new year, and do give you some value. So thanks for watching, guys, and look forward to bringing you my next video.